Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm sitting here listening to my music. I'm vibing. I'm having a very, very solid art night. I'm doing pieces. I'm in my zone. The last thing I wanted to do was make a video about anything, but this could not wait. If anybody saw my NBA video today, I broke down 4 teams: the Sacramento Kings, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Hornets, and the Timberwolves. I talked about the Timberwolves for about 15 minutes in that video. One of the things that I mentioned was that it may be in the Timberwolves' best interest to trade Karl Anthony Towns if they believe they can get something for him on the market, and at the same time, understanding that he's probably somebody who has some habits that doesn't allow for you to win with him if he continues on the path he was on when he played like some fantastic scoring ball, but ultimately cost them a game against a bad Charlotte Hornets team last year. And going into this season, I'm really excited about the Minnesota Timberwolves because of the talent that they got in the draft. But I wasn't sure they could win with Cat. I didn't necessarily think they should move on from Cat because of the dynamic of having a three-point shooter with that height. But I think his conditioning has to be where it needs to be, which he's been pretty good at, staying healthy. But they did have a bad season with him health-wise last year. And I thought that given the fact that he had a 70-something point game earlier in the season last year, even though they lost that game, in that same flurry, you could say, okay, this guy is worth something for what he can do. And we lost this basketball game because he did too much and it wasn't winning stuff, wasn't intelligent stuff, in my opinion. But so very volume based that you could really provide yourself a good trade package in return if you decide to shop him. Well, they traded him tonight. They traded Karl Anthony Towns 5 hours after I made that video. And I'm sitting here like, did somebody see my video? Because I made a strong, compelling case for why the Timberwolves should consider what they can get for him in the trade market because of what he's capable of doing and because I didn't think they could win with it. So, meanwhile, you got the New York Knicks who are on a mission to just do everything differently. I'm kind of surprised they gave up Dante DiVincenzo, a first-round pick for Detroit, and Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns. The Hornets got involved in this trade as well. They got some draft compensation and DeJuan Jeffries, of whom I'm not familiar with. I don't know who that is. I don't know where he's coming from either. So one of the 3 teams had DeJuan Jeffries. A first-round pick from Detroit is headed to the Minnesota Timberwolves, which is excellent. Excellent, because this is exactly what I was talking about. The Minnesota Timberwolves turned Karl Anthony Towns into Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a first-round pick. Great return for the Minnesota Timberwolves, in my opinion. Julius Randle coming off the surgery of the shoulder. You wonder what he's going to be when he returns, but ultimately a change of scenery for him, coupled with the fact that he's going to be playing next to some really nice guys, and of course, Rudy Gobert and Anthony Edwards. You know, as we talked about at length, Dillingham. So I really like the idea of bringing that player, Julius, to them. I don't know if I'd rather have him than Karl Anthony Towns per se, but when you consider you got a first-round pick and a very good role player in Dante DiVincenzo, of whom, as I said, I don't think I'd move on from the Knicks, but they do have an overload at guard, so I'm not really mad at them. Also, mind you, the Knicks just moved on from one of the Villanova players, and I don't know why the hell they did that. When you get ready to start the team with your Villanova super team, you got the other Villanova dude, Mikal Bridges, to sign on with the team, and then you send one of the brothers out. That's going to be very, very controversial, especially given the fact that bring back Karl Anthony Towns, somebody who really did not play a lot of games last year. So that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to scratch their head about. I don't know if you love that if you're the Knicks. I don't know that I'd do this if I'm the Knicks, to be honest with you. But bringing in Big Cat does make for an interesting, massive piece to bring in Julius's stead. You probably did want to move on from Julius because just like Karl, I can make the argument that the Knicks couldn't win with Julius. But then again, I don't know that they can win with Karl. So it's kind of all over the place. But you know, Karl is from New York, so I'm definitely positive he's happy to be back home to play for the Knicks. So that's really my preliminary thoughts to this. I know everybody's probably breaking the news right now. It happened at absolute random. The last thing I thought we would see is a trade right before the season started. So who knows what could fall out from this. Maybe some more moves are made because of this one. But I really think Minnesota did great here. If you're looking for an opportunity to trade Karl Anthony Towns, this is exactly the type of return that I think is good. All-star player in Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, who the better the role, the better he'll play. If you more minutes you give him, the closer to all-star he plays like. And I think he'll have a much greater role with the Minnesota Timberwolves than he has with the New York Knicks, who had so many guards in rotation at the time. If I'm looking at this from a Knicks perspective, I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I like Big Cat in New York. I haven't given enough thought to see if I like him with the unit that they have. But in a nutshell, I don't think I'd do this if I'm the Knicks. I think Dante DiVincenzo is worth just enough for me to feel like them throwing in a first-round pick is probably not the move. They've been a little too laissez-faire with picks, and I know they had plenty of them. But when you consider they gave up like 3 of them or 4 of them for OG Anunoby, and then threw up some more picks for, of course, Bridges. They gave up like a bunch of seconds. Or I think they gave up... Did they get back 2 seconds? No, they gave up 2 seconds. I'm trying to figure out what the Obi Toppin trade provided them 2 second rounders. That's not relevant. But the point is, they just been going away a lot of first rounders. And in this trade, they too gave away another first rounder. Now, I know Karl Anthony Towns' contract has a lot to do with the alignment of what it is that they're trying to do with Bridges, Brunson, Karl, OG. I'm sure Karl has like 4 years or 3 years left on his deal, but I have not checked, so that's just me guessing that they're trying to align those deals. Probably at least a 3-year deal. I don't remember when he signed his last one, but he probably won't have a problem wanting to re-sign at his home team, New York Knicks. It's a big deal because he's going home to New York, and he is a really winning player. For me, if I'm the Knicks, I gotta find a way to keep Dante out of this trade for the sake of what it is you put together. The Villanova Knicks. You can't move out one of the Villanova bros. I mean, come on, what are we doing? You moved out of Villanova, brother, when the whole point of giving away 1 million picks for Mikal Bridges is so that he can come play with the Villanova bros, and you gonna send one out? That's abandoning ship on what it is you just did. And like I said, with the OG Anunoby situation, I do not understand why they did that. Giving OG Anunoby such a massive contract and then letting Hartenstein leave. You let Hartenstein leave, who's notorious for playing hard, rebounding the ball, all this different stuff that he does, facilitating. So you now need a center, and you go get Big Cat, which fills the position but does not provide that type of hustle. He's a three-point shooter at the center position who tends to get hurt. I don't like this. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't hate it. I don't want to paint the picture like this is awful. What the hell are the Knicks doing? Not necessarily. I don't like it for the narrative of we had the Villanova Knicks and we just gave it away. I don't like that. And Julius Randle's fine. I can move him out. I thought that was a good decision moving him out. Karl Anthony Towns for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think is a W. I like the return for Karl. I don't mind them trading Karl, as I clearly illustrated earlier in the video today. Julius Randle will fit in. I like the aggression that Julius could potentially play with next to Anthony Edwards. He gonna drive Anthony crazy by trying to be the A1 alpha man in the locker room. That's gonna be a situation where Minnesota probably gonna reflip Julius within 2 years. They're gonna learn who Julius is and find out they want to get rid of him. I can see that coming quickly. But for now, I think they'll love the aggression of him, Dillingham, Terrence Shannon. Got to see how Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle fare with one another. But I think Julius Randle's a fantastic three-point shooter when he has it going. He's had career years with the Knicks where he shot above 40%. So I don't think he's going to be someone who just you can leave from behind the arc this season. Even if he doesn't shoot that well, he should shoot well enough to give them the space that they need to not make that a clogging situation. And like I said, I like Dante DiVincenzo there. I don't know if I have to readjust my thinking in regards to the shooting guard position. With Dillingham's minutes could be potentially eaten into from Dante DiVincenzo, who they may want to have play some one at times as well. Yeah, I think that the most important thing for the Minnesota Timberwolves was to just turn 1 into 3, and most importantly, get some type of future pick out of the situation. And a valuable piece in Julius Randle that you could probably reflip for something else later on, which they, like I said, they probably will. How they manage him will determine how well he plays will determine how good this trade is, and then furthermore down the road, what they do with him. If they let him walk for nothing like the Lakers did, this is not going to pay out the way that they hope. The most important thing for the Minnesota Timberwolves is to acquire future assets. They did give away some to get Dillingham, but I like that decision. They gave away some way down the road futures, but Dillingham's going to be a star all the way through those years, so that makes sense if he develops properly. Yeah, this is me like literally thinking this out as we look at it right here, and really, like I said, I'm not in love with this trade for the Knicks. I don't despise it like I did the OG Anunoby contract in trading for him. I hated that. This ain't nearly on that level. I really do like the idea of bringing in Big Cat, bringing him home to New York. I think that could be really fun for him. And when people get over the fact that they literally gave away one of the Villanova players, which is the whole purpose of everything they've been doing, they're going to find that they really like Big Cat so long as he stays healthy. But the problem is, if he doesn't stay healthy, this looks a little interesting. Now, one thing I would ask if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves fan is, did I just get a lemon in Julius Randle? Is he going to have any setbacks with the shoulder? Is there anything I need to know about the shoulder, which is why the Knicks may moved on from him at the beginning of this, before the season started? Is there something I should know about Julius? It would be something that I would ask if I'm a Minnesota Timberwolves fan. Is there something I need to know? Is he not going to be healthy? Is that shoulder going to continue to give him problems? Did the surgery not go right? Something happened? Because this seems like a strange time for them to be moving on from a piece like that. And then furthermore, if I'm the Knicks, I'm going to say, okay, now that I have Cat in place, do I still need Mitchell Robinson the same way that I did beforehand? The answer is probably not. If I can get something from Mitchell Robinson sometime during the season, I'm going to move him because I can't keep him healthy. So the moment I get a chance to move him for something that looks even remotely reasonable to me, I'm probably going to move Mitchell Robinson. I probably am. Having depth for Cat is important, but I don't look at him as depth for Cat because I can't keep him on the floor for longer than 30 games. So he's probably a terrible bet to be available to me. Plus, Cat is a big star who's going to get the minutes that provided will leave him on the floor all game long. That's another aspect of the situation that needs to be taken into account. Okay, so Julius Randle's value was probably inflated as a Knick because he never came off the floor. So whatever his stats were, if you work that into the price tag, maybe you think that those numbers may come down for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Because at the end of the day, no other coach is going to play your players like Tibbs is. So that's something to really consider. Meanwhile, Big Cat's value goes way up. His numbers should skyrocket as a Knick because, first of all, he's in the Eastern Conference, which means he's probably going to have less of a time trying to guard all the bigs that ultimately the West has out here. And also, weaker talent equals higher scoring numbers for Western Conference players. Players that are used to being on the West, when they go back east and get to run into teams that are not very good night in and night out, they're going to find out just how much they love being in the Eastern Conference. It's like turning the difficulty down in the video game. I really believe that. The Eastern Conference is not the same. Big Cat's going to enjoy being in the East in that regard. What else? There's something else I wanted to say to the situation. Cat playing a lot of minutes does increase the likelihood that he goes down. It really does. And you bring him to a Tibbs situation, he, like I said, he only played like 30-something games last year. He's not the most sturdy 7-footer. He really ain't. Maybe he can get in better shape being with the Knicks, but just the same, you think he's more likely to fall with an injury. So, the Knicks have to understand who they are, bro. This is what I say about one of these situations. When you got Thibodeau and you understand that he plays a high-powered way of doing things in terms of you got to have high energy, you got to be in great shape, and you got to be able to withstand playing 48 minutes for 82 games, plus playoffs. You got to make sure that the personnel can do that. I definitely do not think Karl Anthony Towns is the guy that comes to mind for that. In fact, I'd rather have Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo for that. Julius Randle comes as a specimen of human form who can run with the best of them, is in the best shape of most players in the league, and can just run all day. And even he didn't stay healthy in that system. Dante DiVincenzo, fantastic athlete, tip-top shape at all times, can run back and forth all day long. Now you bring yourself Karl Anthony Towns, who does have energy issues, who does tend to fall asleep defensively, who does tend to play lethargic at times, loves playing from behind the arc. He's not an energy guy. You're letting a lot of energy leave your situation in letting Julius go, letting Dante go, letting Hartenstein go. That's a lot of energy that made up the dynamic of your team that ultimately got you as far as it did. And now you're bringing in a big piece who tends to play lazy-ish in Karl Anthony Towns. And furthermore, bringing OG Anunoby on for a long-term contract, even though he played a little bit last year, you know you're not going to rely on him to stay healthy. That's been the problem I've had with OG all this time. He just can't play longer than 40 games. So now you got a lot less healthy, in theory, based on the expectations for the health of the players that you brought to yourself. In terms of name, I think you might have improved. Karl Towns is a bigger star than Julius, but not that much bigger to where you're moving on from Dante DiVincenzo in the first round pick to bring him in if I'm the Knicks. I'm not doing that. I don't think I'm going to play with the same level of energy that we're used to playing with all the energy that just went out as I just illustrated. So the Knicks dynamic has changed. It's significantly weaker defensively, which is not good for Thibodeau in theory. Did Karl play for Thibodeau? I want to say Thibodeau was with the Minnesota Timberwolves for a second or two, but I don't remember. I thought he was there for a second though, but I don't remember. Seems like he was there before he got to the Knicks. I don't know. I might not be knowing what I'm talking about though. But yeah, man. In a nutshell, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves definitely won this trade for me. I love the first round pick. I think Julius is worth it. With Dante DiVincenzo sending Cat out, I don't mind sending Cat out. I said that earlier. For the Knicks, I give this like a C plus because I love bringing home Big Cat, but ultimately I don't love the style of play and the fact that he's going to be running so much with so much energy going out. I don't think he brings a lot of energy. I don't love that. He tends to get pushed around. They're going to need him to do some pushing. I don't think they. Did they get better? If you didn't expect Julius to come back, if you thought he was going to miss some time, you can consider that being a plus. But ultimately, I don't think the Knicks got better. Lateral, maybe. I don't know that they got worse. I think they may have upgraded talent, but not enough with what they had going out, if that makes any sense. If you can do this deal without having Dante in it, I feel so much better about it. That you incorporated Dante into the deal, I don't feel as confident that you won the trade if you're the Knicks, even though you got back the biggest star. I don't think so. So yeah, I'm not so sure about this one, New York. I'm not so sure about this. I think it could be fun to watch them play when they're healthy. I don't have high expectations for them staying healthy based on the coach and how he likes to run guys. I don't think we did a good enough job in this situation if you're the Knicks identifying who we are as a play style and our coach, what we just let go of, and what the dynamic of the player that we're bringing in is going to bring to the table in regards to losing what it is that we lost. You got as far as you did because you outworked people. And you would have outworked the Indiana Pacers if you could have just stayed healthy enough to do so. Does Cat help you with that? You got to ask yourself, why is Minnesota moving on from this guy when we just went to the Western Conference Finals with him? It's because they couldn't count on him to stay healthy. And you're bringing him to you in a system where you play your guys 48 minutes, 82? Very ambitious, but lacking self-awareness is what I would say about this Knicks particular trade. I don't think you really behold, unless you plan on moving on from Tibbs. If you're going to move on from Tibbs and bring a more traditional coach that can protect Cat from himself, and then furthermore bring yourself another energy center like Hartenstein, for whom you probably would be better to have than Karl Anthony Towns for your style of play, then I would be like, all right, the Knicks look good. But this looks like the Knicks are aiming for names. They probably saw an opportunity to move on from Julius, which they thought was a plus. But at the end of the day, probably weren't better for doing this. In my opinion, I don't think they were better for doing this. So we'll see what happens, man. But kudos to the Minnesota Timberwolves from my end of things. I do not know that they are a better team with Julius coming in, with Cat going out. But for me, the most important thing for the Timberwolves, beyond anything in the present, is making sure that you kind of bring back some assets that can help you make up for the Rudy Gobert trade, which really capped off your future ceiling. And with them having no picks from now until 2030, if they could turn Cat into something while he's worth something, which is the argument I made earlier today, it's probably best for the future of the franchise. And given the fact that you got Anthony Edwards and Dillingham to consider, and Shannon, if he develops as well, to consider, you don't really need to rely upon Karl Anthony Towns to provide so much value. You can cash out on that right now and get yourself maybe some more valuable pieces that you can maybe dish out in the different trades later on that can keep the fullness of what your value is intact, because you really did too much with that Rudy Gobert trade that you're not going to be able to make up for. Even in the success of your team right now, you see the future is going to suck. This keeps the future from sucking as much by bringing that first to you, bringing Julius to you, bringing Dante to you, making everything you have worth more. So they cashed out on something very valuable before it went off a cliff. Karl Anthony Towns probably reached the ceiling with this team to a degree anyway. Maybe I would have waited one more year to see what they could do this season. But I kind of get it. I kind of get it. And I think Julius Randle at the full health, it has a nice retrade value for the Timberwolves. So that's why I don't mind what the Timberwolves did today. I don't know if it helps him in the regular season, but if Julius plays to the level that Julius is capable of, I don't think it hurts him either. He's definitely not bad. He's not bad in any way, shape, or form. So that's really my take on this trade, man. I don't know nothing about the Charlotte aspect of it. I don't know what that has to do with anything. I don't know. I don't know if they'll add anything more to this trade. Maybe they have since we've been talking. But I just wanted to react to what I saw there, man. Cat's a New York Knick, Julius, and Dante DiVincenzo are Timberwolves. And that is that, man. BDL 44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.